Why do you enjoy designing libraries?
You're creating this space for a community that is so happy to have this space, right? So it's a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
It's a win for the community. It's a win for us because people love it.
All of our projects are kind of like puzzle solving, but with libraries in particular, there's more pieces to that puzzle, I feel. So I enjoy that.
You're listening to What's the Scope with Finegold Alexander Architects, the podcast where we share our hands-on approach to projects and how we love to celebrate design that is boundless. Hi, I'm Madison Mercado, your host and a marketing coordinator at the firm. If you haven't listened to some of our previous mini-series, Finegold Alexander is a woman-owned architecture firm based in Boston, Massachusetts, with a long history of historic preservation, adaptive reuse, and new construction in the K-12, higher ed, religious, developer, and civic sectors. As this is coming out, it's right after Library Lovers Day in February, which actually coincides with Valentine's Day. And we wanted to take you through the journey of Finegold Alexander's library history and our outlook on where libraries have been and where they're going. The firm has a 55-plus years long history of designing public libraries in Massachusetts, from one of our first projects at the Avon Public Library to our most recent project in the study phase in Waltham. The firm keeps busy designing flexible libraries that fit the needs of any community. In this first episode of our library series, we'll take you through the firm's approach to every project and what makes this public building so special. So I'll pass it on to Ellen and Josephine.
I'm Ellen Anselone. I'm a principal here at Finegold Alexander. I've been at this company for many years. I've worked on a number of libraries. In Waltham Library, which we were awarded this summer, is the 9th library I've worked on.
Wow.
That's right.
I know. Oh my goodness, I didn't count how many I worked on. I'm Josephine Penta. I'm a senior associate and a senior project manager. I've been with the company for 19 plus years. And since then, I have been working on libraries throughout. And I don't have a total count of how many libraries that I've worked on, but Waltham Library is the newest one that I started working on this year.
Nice. Well, welcome to What's the Scope? Glad to have you here today. Finegold Alexander as a firm does have over 55 years of experience building public libraries in Massachusetts. Can you walk me through some of the highlights over these, or of the time that you've been here, of course, and then anything that might have made any of the libraries that you've worked on special to you?
I'll go first. The first library I worked on was Newburyport, and that was the start of many libraries that I worked on. But one of the things that we have seen over time is the evolution of libraries, not just being a place to hold books in occasional meetings for the community. It's really a community-based building now. It's a lot of, it's yoga, cooking classes, knitting classes. It's all this type of activity that brings people into the library, not for just books. And that's been a big change.
And that's an exciting part of how they have evolved. I think Holyoke Library was the first one that I started working on at the firm. And yeah, I feel like every time we work on a library project, we sort of have to stop, step back, reanalyze what's going on with the climate and how things have changed, how libraries are using their facilities and what the trends are. And so it's exciting every time we get into a new library project. Things have shifted a little bit, so we have to think about things differently, which is a really interesting piece of the whole puzzle.
And one of the things, even with Waltham, there's no more, all the media is digital, right? There's no taking out VHS tapes or CDs. That's all gone. And that's a big change, and that opens up a lot of space for a library, that's how it all evolves. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting, actually.
And we're kind of in this interim phase where we're looking at space to house some of those older pieces that will be coming out probably within the next 5 years. Yeah. But we do have to think about that, what is going to happen in the next 5 years and how they're going to shift things around. And it has to be somewhat flexible because of that.
Yeah, I think flexibility is key in the library just because how it changes, it evolves. And when I started out doing libraries, it was magazines and, newspapers. All that's gone. You may get one or two publications in libraries, but very few.
Do you find that the libraries now have more stacks for books than they did back then because you don't have to have space for DVDs, etc.?
I don't know. That's a good question. It depends on the community. Because there's no reference anymore either. So there is more space for books, but what it's allowed us, Josephine, is to create more meeting rooms,
Right.
small meeting rooms, study rooms, those kind of spaces. So
Right.
maybe not more bookshelves,
Yep.
but more space for the public.
And what we're finding is that as we work on each library project, the square footage is not, it's still increasing by quite a bit because they may not be housing these collections so much anymore, but they still need the space for other things, and they have so many more people coming to the library after the renovation. And so it's being used more, and they have, again, all these spaces, as Ellen mentioned, for yoga classes and cooking classes and all these meeting rooms and just all these different functions. So still being used more than before, but it's just being used differently. And so the square footage isn't reducing because of some of these collection pieces that are going away.
And the other part that has grown is children's and young adults. That from the start of Holyoke, became a boom because the director in Newburyport, Dottie LaFrance, said, "Get the kids early." So they want the little kids in. So they become lifelong library patrons. Right. So I think that's a big trend we're seeing.
Yeah.
If we looked back at some of the older libraries that the firm has done, maybe they don't have some of the same sections and such a large children's section.
And young adult. Young adult is big too, Josephine.
Yeah, young adult definitely is one of the key pieces, children's and young adult, as Ellen mentioned. And yeah, if you do look at the older libraries, you'll probably see that they may be smaller, but you'll see less meeting rooms and less flexibility for sure. MBLC always, recommends a lot of flexibility, and we just see that every single time we're working on a project that it's ingrained in our heads now that we have to be just super flexible with all the spaces, with all the furniture, with how we, build out the entire interior space for the library.
Can you explain what MBLC is and how that's influenced what the type of libraries and what we do here?
Josephine's an expert on it, Madison.
Sure, yeah. MBLC is the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. We work with them closely as we work through these library projects. Libraries will fill out an application and apply for these grants that the MBLC provides, and with that, the MBLC does provide a great, helpful resource for them with this grant money, but they do have a bunch of requirements that have to be fulfilled as part of the process, and so we work with them from the very beginning all the way through construction to the end. And they're a great resource for us, and they have a lot of helpful tips, and aside from all the requirements, they do have a lot of helpful resources there that get us through the whole duration of the project.
And they're very involved in reviewing our drawings during the whole design process.
Mm-hmm.
So they're beneficial to the architects or designers and the community that they serve.
Yeah, they sure are.
So the reason we're doing this podcast is because February is Library Lovers Month, and this is coming out end of February. And you have been talking about how libraries are becoming a lot more flexible and are being designed to suit the needs of each individual community that the library is in. And I wanted to hear about why you think the library is important for these communities and how they use them and all of these new spaces.
Josephine, I was going to just mention about Jones, how the ESL Center is very big in that library. Unlike a lot of towns, we don't often have a whole grouping of rooms for learning, and but at Jones it's very important to them. And I forget, it's probably 3 or 4 meeting rooms, Josephine, office. So they've dedicated a fair amount of square footage to the ESL Center, which is, for Amherst, Mass, it's very important.
Yeah, they have a whole suite designated for ESL. It played a big role in our design, and it was, very critical piece to the Jones Library puzzle that we had to fulfill. And just, going back, I think that is part of, ESL is just like one component, but going back to how it plays a role in the community, it's just such a resource for everyone, and it's just for everyone, which makes it so great. And that's what, one of the key things is when we're working through these projects is that, it does take you from, children's all the way to, senior
Large print books.
living, it spans such a tremendous, generation. It's for everyone, and that's what makes it so exciting, is that there's a space in there for everyone, and part of it, again, we will reiterate this a few times, but the flexibility, all the pieces that are within this building, all of these spaces, these community rooms, and going back to, activities and maker spaces, and it's just like an exciting place to be now. It's not the place you have to go sit down and be quiet, and so I think a lot of people, really enjoy that, because it's not that what you used to think of as a library, where it was kind of still, and you went there to read, and it was silent, and
there was no eating.
No eating, no drinking,
But so, it's allowed now. Eating and drinking are allowed in most libraries now.
So it's an exciting place to be, and so I think that's part of it.
Yeah. And if I can think about the places in a town, there are few places that really do span an audience of young child to senior age. I don't think I can think of a place that's really meant for really everybody.
No, and it's free.
Right.
Yeah, that too.
It's free. Everything is free.
Yeah.
I'll never buy another travel guide because they're at the library.
Yeah. I do enjoy a free resource at the library.
I think it is, and it has everything. Most libraries have a library of things. So you could take out a tennis racket, a shovel for your garden, anything. And it's wild that they have that, because people need that. Or it's a bocce game, or badminton.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Do either of you have a fun memory of your not doesn't have to be childhood, but your local public library, and how you think it's affected your community that you live in?
I live in Milton, so I brought my kids when they were little to the Milton Library, and they will still use it as a resource when they're visiting. They'll go get something printed, or go take something out, or just go up there to work quietly. I think it's fun for me to think they still use the local library as a resource.
And I think we were talking about this yesterday, but one of the big things is that libraries that have had a renovation done, I feel like they're used so much more than ones that haven't, because when I go to the local library, it's so quiet. Have no renovation, still tiny, beautiful building, but it's quiet and not heavily used. And then I always tend to travel to the libraries that have renovations to check out the renovation and research things. But when I go to those, they are so heavily used, I feel like I'm at a public park. It's just, sometimes it's a little much, actually. It's a little too much overstimulation. But it's just, I think it's night and day, and some of that is because of that renovation and those spaces that we've talked about. So I think it just changes tremendously after a renovation addition is done with the new types of spaces that everybody wants.
Yeah, that makes sense with what you were saying about the children's and young adults area especially, because I feel like children in a library, yes, it can also add noise, but it's like it adds life because you know that there's like families in there.
Yeah.
More than just like adults who are there to sit quietly and read.
Yeah.
So I want to talk now about how the process works of winning a project, and this process has changed a lot over the years. The MBLC process has changed, the towns have changed, so they want different things and have different resources and funding for different things. And I wanted to see how you think that the firm accommodates all of these changes over the years and how the process of obtaining a project has changed.
I think the very beginning of a project hasn't changed. It's still an RFP, right? That's how we hear about most libraries.
Yeah.
And, and then we just assemble our qualifications and submit that, assemble our team of consultants, and then submit the proposal. But to get to win the job, it's a lot of work for us. It's a lot of researching, reading their program, Josephine. I mean, the Waltham library and the proposal and the interview prep was substantial.
Yeah, there was a lot of research to be done. I'm not sure if that has changed now that it's digital, if things have changed a little bit on the research end. We have so many ways now that we can do research where I think it was maybe harder before.
Yes, it was harder. You couldn't get in as deep into the research because you just didn't have the resources.
Right.
And you couldn't do it quickly.
Right. Now it's at our fingertips and easier, I think, to read through things. We have all of these digital pieces. Speaking of digital, going, with these new technologies and all for libraries, we have the same thing that's happening. So a lot of it is digital. And so we have our phones and iPads where we have all of this information. And so it's easier for us to look through it because it is a lot of hours and a lot of time that we put into it. So it's easier for us that it's not a paper document sitting at your desk at the office.
Right.
It's at our fingertips at all times, which is really helpful.
And I think one thing that we have done over the years, it's just because we've accumulated so much knowledge about libraries. And I think that's helped us. I mean, that's helped us win a project because we know our thinking has evolved with what's going on in libraries. So we're at the forefront of what the direction the libraries are going in. And I think that's important to know, to be on top of that. So you're designing in real time for the future, because MBLC's requirements now, it used to be you designing a 20-year building, now it's a 30-year building. So it's just more space, more square footage, and just developing that, working with the library directors to include their program in that.
After you win the project, has the process changed?
Yes, and Josephine can speak to that. She's an expert on how it's changed.
Thanks, Ellen. So it's changed in a few different ways, I suppose. The MBLC has a whole new set of guidelines. They've changed their process of obtaining a grant. And so we won't get into the details of that, but some of the parts and pieces that we do for them hasn't changed as part of that. Like what we have to submit to them is very similar, but there are elements that have changed within the bigger picture of the MBLC grant. We, again, going back to technology, some of what we do internally has changed as part of the study. And so we have been automating things through the years as we work on so many libraries. We have automated a lot of the library-specific items that we work on. So we know that these study phases are usually really fast. We have to produce a lot in a short amount of time. So we have figured out a way to help us get through that as fast as we can. So we're, again, just using technology as best as possible to help us move forward and get us in a good position to meet all of these heavy requirements.
But the one thing that did change, Josephine, is the process, because the towns have to submit before they hire an architect. They have to submit the program and apply for the grant, and then they go through the process, and if they're lucky enough, they get selected. And at that point, they hire an OPM and an architect. So we come in a little bit later in the process, but then once we get hired, it's very similar, what Josephine described.
Right. Do the design firms ever help with fundraising for these libraries? Because the MBLC gives them a grant, yes, but it's not always like the full cost of a library.
No, it's not. It's a percentage. And we do help. Just when you're still working on renderings for Jones, right?
Yeah, we do help fundraising in different ways. So we will work on these renderings to help them get through certain parts of that. At the beginning, we might attend, public meetings, whatnot. They will just ask us how they need our support, and we're certainly there to help them with that, get them through that.
Right. The towns want the library too. They don't want it to be stuck in a study phase forever.
Right.
It's good that they're, willing to work with every moving part in the project in order to get it moving along.
And you're right, the MBLC is just one piece of that. The grant money is just, it helps tremendously,
Yes.
but it is one piece of it. So libraries will tend to look to other resources for grant money. Every little bit helps, and they will try to fundraise as much as they can.
Yeah, and I think J.B. Fletcher at the beam signing, the people that are their fundraising arm, they just crossed the $1 million mark for fundraising, which is fantastic for it, because Westford is a smaller town, but they've done a great job at raising funds. As has Jones. Jones has raised a significant amount of money in Amherst.
It's really good for their future library.
Yes.
And getting them moving along. Other than fundraising and just community outreach with the town where the library is supposed to be built, are there any ways that you help the town set up their library for success in the future?
Well, we try, for the library itself, we try to keep things simple for them, right? Like the day-to-day operations, the controls, the systems. We try not to over-design. We try to give them something that they can actually use at the end of the project. We've been down the road before where systems might be too complicated and then they don't know how to use them. And so we try to keep that simple for them, for all the users of the staff and the facilities folks and everyone that's going to be working there day to day that have to actually use the systems. So we do try to keep that simple for them.
Yeah, as well as the materials inside the library and outside. And our mission is to create a beautiful library, but also we know as the maintenance could be an issue in some towns. They don't have the funding to maintain it. So what we do try to do is select very durable exterior materials and interior materials, also while designing a beautiful library. But that is a big effort, because maintaining like a wood library exterior, that would be a very heavy lift. That would be difficult for a town to do. So we tend to do things like brick, metal siding, metal panel. Things will last for years and years with no maintenance. One other thing that we didn't talk about too much is the sustainability. That's been a big change over time in libraries. As our building codes in Massachusetts, our energy codes are quite robust, and that has helped us, create a library that's very sustainable.
And communities, every community is different, but some we're seeing are stronger on, their sustainability requirements. So some libraries have sustainability committees where others don't, but because of that, there are certain things that we're trying to hit that we might not necessarily be going after LEED, but we're going after very, very strong sustainability pieces of the library because the new codes and just what their goals are as a community. So it's not something that we're not thinking about day to day as we're designing the project.
Do you think more sustainable libraries are easier to maintain?
Well, I think so, because it just, you have more insulation, so you're using less energy, no gas in the buildings anymore, that which is a good thing, which it does impact their cost for electricity, but we try to offset that with having solar panels that will help offset the cost.
Right. I just have one more question for you both. We've talked a lot about how what you do is, basically in service of these communities and these towns and cities. But I wanted to hear a little bit more about yourself and why you yourself enjoy designing libraries.
I think after I did Newburyport Library, I was hooked because it was such a great experience. That director was wonderful. And it was just, when we had the ribbon cutting, when it was open, it was just fantastic. It's you're creating this space for a community that is so happy to have this space, right? So it's a win-win. It's a win for the community. It's a win for us because people love it. And we still get stopped by some folks at the MLA conference coming by to say hi and that they love the library that we designed. So I love that. I mean, that's one of the, it's a great experience.
And similar for me, the ribbon cutting at Holyoke Library was very exciting. That definitely got me hooked. It was amazing to see everybody so excited, and that you had a piece of that that you're giving to them, and it's super fulfilling. But also the library projects have a certain element. All of our projects are kind of like puzzle solving, but with libraries in particular, there's more pieces to that puzzle, I feel. So I enjoy that. There's a lot of program. It's very heavy on the programming. Being so heavy on the programming, it's not just the spaces that we have to figure out and design and lay out, but it's also the seating, it's also the collections. So it's just a lot of pieces to the programming puzzle, and it just makes it a very exciting part of it all. Right. So
it's like a puzzle, and it's really it's adjacencies and what can go where, and it's a challenge. Unlike, we also do multifamily housing, which compared to a library, that's a piece of cake because it's very similar. In the libraries, the program is 2, 3, 4 pages long of different program elements in the library.
Right. An apartment building just needs apartments.
Yes, apartments
right.
And maybe retail and parking.
And Ellen mentioned earlier the program that we received from the library director at the very beginning of the project. I mean, that building program is hundreds of pages long, and so that gives you a sense of what they're asking for. And so we do have to read through that and work all of that into our design, and that's just an interesting part of the whole design and early stages of a library project.
Well, it's nice to know that you do love the challenge, though.
Yes.
And it keeps you going. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
Thank you.
on this podcast. Thank you for listening to What's the Scope with Finegold Alexander Architects. This episode was produced and edited by Madison Mercado with music from the YouTube Music Library. Tune in next week to hear about how we tackle the common concerns found at many of the library projects the firm takes on. You can find us at faainc.com and connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram at Finegold Alexander Architects. See you next week.